Hey, thanks for joining us today. This is a tax investing news update for April 1st, and we're going to cover the last 3 weeks because we took a week off last week. We had a nice break, and the Parcel Fair staff took good care of everything and took care of you guys, so thanks to them. Big thanks to them, actually. So now we're back and excited to be catching up on what's going on with the auctions, the over-the-counter news. There's been some big releases, and we'll cover all that here. We're going to go state by state after I cover some of the market totals here. So if you want to jump across states and skip markets, you can look at the chapters at the bottom of your video on YouTube and just jump to whatever state you want to watch. So let's get started. So first off, we're going to talk about the market totals. And we added 57,203 properties to Parcel Fair over the last 3 weeks. 54,000 roughly were liens, about 2,000 were tax deeds, and about 1,000 foreclosures there, and just a handful of land bank properties added, around 84. So next up, the breakdown by state looks like this. The foreclosures, the lion's share were Florida as usual, about 683 of those, and then an even split almost between Indiana and Colorado. These are going to be those foreclosure auctions that have to do with a lender foreclosing on a property or something like that, not necessarily a tax foreclosure. So these are a little bit of an outlier for our site since we're mostly tax properties. The over-the-counter ads, Arizona dropped another 3,000 this morning for Pima County. Those have been moving all day long really quickly, so that's, again, they move quickly, so you can jump in there and see what's available, but those were added today. Tennessee added 73 in Shelby County, or the Memphis area, to the land bank. Mississippi added 48 over-the-counter properties, so that's a good month for them. Those sort of come in as the state forecloses on properties. There's not ever, that we've seen, a really big dump of Mississippi over-the-counter ads at once. They just sort of trickle in throughout the year. Maryland added 16, and Florida and Arkansas just added 11 and 5 apiece, respectively, there. So 3,240 over-the-counter properties added. The big breakdown here is going to be by state. So about 52,000 of those are going to break down. So Maryland had the big one, the big auction drop. Funny enough, that's all from one county. That's all Baltimore City. Baltimore City County, to be exact. Mississippi, they did their spring sales. They added 18,000 plus properties. That was across a handful, about a dozen counties. Alabama added 10,000 more tax auction properties they released, and more are on the way. New Jersey added another 2,000 tax liens for their auctions over the coming month. Florida, 827. Those are going to be tax deeds that were added. We're not in their tax lien auction season yet. Ohio added 359 tax deeds for their share of sales. And North Carolina did 263 new tax deed auction properties, rather. New Mexico added 182. I think it's across 3 sales that were added, 2 or 3 sales. It was not much going on there. Virginia added 117, sort of scattered across about 6 sales. Tennessee added 91. That's going to be one auction coming up. Indiana added 30 more. Those are going to be in some of their spring sales, which were already announced. So those 30 are just sort of some stragglers that came in late. And lastly, Louisiana, we're tracking some of their sales, the 28 more properties going to auction there. So that's the breakdown of the 52,000 across each state. So let's talk about the auction calendar update. We did make a big auction calendar planning video at the beginning of the year, and that video is quickly becoming out of date because the auctions are changing and being added daily. It's a great video to understand how to look at auctions, but we're tracking right now over 1,200 upcoming auctions, and so things are moving fast, is all that to say. You need to keep up with the auctions and track them on our site daily because we're always adding new auctions. So on that note, this is the tax auction calendar we covered in that video. We'll show you the Arizona auctions. They finished up in February, March. You can see those in here, the lien auctions, a few deed auctions as well. Indiana, we are in the thick of it right now in April. We have quite a few left that we'll cover in this video before we end out the spring season. They also have the foreclosures running year-round in Indiana, those auctions on our site. Maryland, we have the big auction in Baltimore City right now, but it's kind of quiet there right now. So their season has started. Alabama started a couple weeks ago, and some of the big auctions are this week, and we have a new video out to cover that you can check out, and it goes into a lot of depth. Mississippi just finished their auctions today, but we're going to cover what's left. They're doing some relisting coming up tomorrow, maybe even beyond that. So what that shows you is that we're coming into the Utah, Florida tax lien season, and then we're going to get Oklahoma as well. Florida has the deed and foreclosure sales year-round. Those are two separate things. You have the tax deed auctions and the tax foreclosures. Next up, the bottom half of this calendar really shows you the states that you can shop in year-round. You're looking at New Jersey, New Mexico, North Carolina. All these states at the bottom are going to have sales throughout the year. So hopefully this calendar helps you plan seasonally around what's coming up and where those opportunities really are state by state. So let's talk about our first state. We're going to talk about Alabama. Our most recent video was actually an in-depth look at the first wave of Alabama auctions that were released. They sort of come in two waves. There's some pretty notable counties in the first wave, but the second wave is going to have Mobile, Jefferson, Montgomery, some of those very large counties later around May and June. So the season it stretches out over a few months, and it's worth tracking that way. But that video, I cannot stress enough, we put a lot of time and effort into explaining how the different auctions work in Alabama, because we are underneath two different systems in the state, where Alabama is actually has a handful of counties, about a third of the state in the old system, and then 2/3 of the state in this new tax lien system. And it is critical that you understand what you're buying if you are shopping at these auctions. Otherwise, you can make some big mistakes with your strategy. There's some great opportunities, and I don't want you to misunderstand and mess that up. So that video, it's about half an hour. It really does set the record straight on what's going on in Alabama this year in this auction season. So definitely check that out if you're thinking about Alabama. But just to cover a little bit of that here, let me make a quick note about the over-the-counters in Alabama. We've been telling you guys this for a couple months, or maybe about a month now, that there are price quotes on hold for a few hundred properties in Jefferson County. Their legal descriptions are under review, and those quotes are going to be on hold till further notice. Now, remember, that's a few hundred properties out of 11,000, so it's not like the county is down. Some people have panicked about this, and I really just want to be clear that hundreds of properties out of 11,000 does not mean you can't buy in Jefferson County. It's also just 1 out of 68 counties. So keep that in mind. It's not you're not going to be missing out on the whole state or even the whole county. So again, back to the auctions here. This is Alabama's schedule broken down. The tax lien and tax certificate auctions, that's the new system and the old system respectively. Those lists are available, and the auctions are happening right now. So we'll update our We Are Here marker to show you that we are in April now. So we're at the beginning of the auction season where auctions are happening. Tomorrow there's a handful, and you're going to see more lists released in the coming weeks. We've already got even more than our public right now. We have some previews and some official lists already, but more are coming. And this also illustrates that there are plenty of over-the-counters available too. Different ways to buy OTCs, and there's resellers. So Alabama is always full of opportunity. Let's take a peek at the auction calendar for Alabama. So you can see in March we wrapped our first auction here for Blount County is complete. And so into April, 4 auctions tomorrow. Shelby is a very notable one. None of these are huge. You're looking at 400 plus properties in a couple of these. But those auctions will be happening tomorrow, April 2nd. And then in April, we're going to see a handful of other ones. So some of these counties have thousands of properties available. Baldwin is very notable. Baldwin is the Bay Area across the bay from Mobile. It's a very nice area. There's beach properties, there's inland properties, there's bay properties. It's a very popular county to buy in. So there is a lot in this first wave of auctions going on this month. And as we move into May, you can even see Madison County, that's Huntsville. That's a very popular area. Coleman, also very popular. And you can see some of these auctions with no parcels available yet. We know the date, but we don't have a list yet for those. So those lists are going to be showing up very soon. And then you get into some of these further out, like Calhoun, Walker, St. Clair, in Houston. We have preview lists for Calhoun, Walker, and Houston. I think St. Clair's actually official now, I believe. But those auction lists we get from the county early, so they're not the official advertisement, but they're going to help you if you want to research in advance of those releases. So again, a lot going on this auction calendar. It will extend slightly into June. Montgomery will be in June once it's announced. And you will see a lot more action here coming up. But back to, I'll say it again, you really should watch the video that we just put out on this channel, Alabama Auctions for 2024. It's going to save you a lot of trouble, a lot of hassle to understand what are the two systems, and frankly, depending on your strategy, you might want to focus on one or the other and not shop in both systems that are in play right now. So, I know I sound like a broken record, but there's a lot of opportunity in Alabama. I just want you to get it right. All right, let's move on to Maryland. We're in tax lien auction season, and the Baltimore City 2024 auction is now available. There are over 20,000 liens in the initial advertisement. It's dropped a little bit already. And a quick reminder that we do have video or photo and video scouting services in Maryland. I'll show you how to use those in a minute. And just one last shout out for before we move on to the calendar. Baltimore City does have 3 ways to buy over the counter. Remember, there's other over the counters in Maryland too, in various counties, but Baltimore City has the most by far and away. And so normally there's about 3,000 OTC properties available, but they just pulled, it looks like the 2022 leftovers maybe just pulled, they pulled about 1,000 properties. So now we're down to 2,000 over the counter properties available. So that was interesting to see. I think they're just getting ready for the 2024 leftovers to come out in a couple months, whenever they release those. So that was interesting to see. But let's go look at that auction calendar. Well, the calendar is not going to show us anything because there's only one auction. But let's look at Baltimore City, which, remember, Baltimore County is this large area where there are no properties. It looks like a letter N kind of right here, or a tooth, I don't know. But this smaller county inside of Baltimore County is called Baltimore City County. So Baltimore City, right now you can see 20,471 parcels available. That's because we're looking at everything. I've told you the auction actually dropped some of the advertised properties already that were deemed. But I've turned everything on just so you can see for variety here how many ways there are to buy. I mean, just on this one street block, we have an over-the-counter lien right here. We have an over-the-counter land bank property right there through Buy into Baltimore program. And then an upcoming tax auctions properties right here, tax liens. So they're just, the opportunity here is incredible. If you know the Baltimore area and have a way to invest there and a sound strategy, there's plenty of opportunity for you to buy. These are very popular liens as far as investor-friendly rules. And let's take a look at, I'm going to show you how to filter this. Let's start with that. First of all, let's look at just the auction property. So I'm going to click my inventory filter and go to upcoming auctions. And that takes us down almost a couple thousand properties to 18,749. Next, I'm going to say just properties with improvements, which are going to be anything with a structure. Maybe a terrible structure, but we're going to filter out all the vacant lots, and that gets us down to 15,500 properties. Now, if I want to rule out sort of the junk structures, maybe things that are you may get an improvement value very low on something if it's just like a foundation or a shed or something. Let's put a minimum value. In this case, let's put a minimum value of $20,000, and I don't have to fill in this max value. The minimum value is enough. That took out another 3,000 properties. So now we can get even more creative and say let's go $40,000. That takes us down to 9,000 properties. And why don't we do out-of-state owners? This is going to be owners that do not live in the state of Maryland. That took us down to 946 properties. And you may ask, why does the owner location matter? It's sort of guesswork at this point, but you can make an educated guess that if the owner lives out of state, then they're less attached to the property, which should lower the chances of them redeeming. So it improves your chances of getting the property if the odds of them redeeming are low. And there's plenty of people that live in the state that won't redeem as well. But this is just a good way if you want to focus on just a few hundred properties, how you can do that. And let's click go on that and see. We took this from 20,000 properties all the way down to 946, and that's a much more manageable number to work with. And now on the right side, I'm sort of just checking out some of these properties on the map. Not the map, I'm sorry, on the preview panel here. I clicked find on map on this one. Let's just pull it up for example. So this is going to be one of the buildings that is adjoining with the others. If you wanted to send a scout out for photos and videos, this is that button I mentioned, order photos and videos. You can fill that out and it will send a request to our scout to go, they'll work it out with you. There is a cost involved, but that's it depends on how far it is. If you're buying multiple, you can kind of work that out. If you want to ask for a bulk discount for 10 properties, whatever that is. But the point is, click there if you want to send a scout out to the property. Let's click on the panorama view and zoom in on the property. The boarded up one right here. So you can get a good idea here. The Google Street View is not always quite up to date. So if you were actually taking this property very seriously, you might want to send the scout out to it. But you can get an idea of the neighborhood at least and see the area. Now, several things jump out to me when I'm looking at this property report. Let me zoom in a little bit for you. So the valuation is always something my eye kind of jumps towards. At 71.5 and 46.5 of that are improvements. You can see right here. It is zoned residential. We don't have zoning information on every county in the country, but we do have it for some, and we'll show it right here when we do have zoning. There's one tax lien available, and it's going to cost $1,771. So it's a very affordable tax lien. And importantly, this is a vacant property address. Now, if you've used our system before, you've probably seen that, and you may have asked that question of what does that mean? It just means that the U.S. Postal Service has confirmed from their mail carriers that this property is not accepting mail. It's a good indication that it's vacant. And moving down the screen here, I can see this is in an opportunity zone as well, a low-income community opportunity zone. If that's part of your strategy, then that could jump out to you. If it's not part of your strategy, then the short version is that you can click this link right here and read on the federal HUD website how the opportunity zones work. And in general, it's a tax shelter, tax break if you're moving investments from non-real estate into real estate. So if that is interesting to you, then you should check that out. Moving down the page, we can see that the owner lives in Salt Lake City, Utah. That's why they were in the out-of-state owner results. So definitely not living in the property. And I skipped over purchase options here, so I wanted to point that out. But the purchase options, think of this as your purchase button. You click on that, it's going to show you everything you need to go get started on buying this. In this case, being a tax auction, we have the register for tax sale link. We have the link to the actual list of properties if you want to go see where we pulled the property from. But we also have the date, time, and locations that it's online, and the taxes due, which are the starting bid. So that gives you everything you need to get going on this property. And lastly, I'll point out the research links on the right. There's a link to the Baltimore City GIS map and to the state property card, which actually takes you directly to this property on their website and gives you a nice breakdown of some other information that could be interesting to you if you want to look at sale history, value history, local codes, and things like that. So this report will get you started for the auction, and there's so much else going on here. I'm not going to cover it on this video because we talk about it a lot, but you can add attachments if you want to add photos or documents to it. You could leave some notes for yourself on this property, and you could always add it to a list like this, and now it's in my Baltimore City shopping list. So that's a great way to keep track of your research for later if you want to add it to a list. And so that's, I think, top to bottom how I would look at this property and decide if I want to move on it or not. So we covered filtering, we covered research, we covered just working through that report and saving things to lists. So I think that's a good synopsis for this auction. We can move on. But depending on your strategy, these search filters, they can be very useful. You could invert this whole thing and go for vacant land if you wanted to, and we could not look at out-of-state owners, all kinds of things that you can do. So that gets you started on Baltimore City. Moving on to Indiana, we have a spring tax lien auction season that is well in flight at this point. There's 12 more auctions in April. The Lake County list has been available for a while, and it seemed like we had plenty of time to get ready for this auction, but it happens next week. It snuck up on us. So you've had a couple months. Hopefully you registered for this because the registration, I believe, ended in February. So if you're in it, then great. It's coming up very soon. Lots of opportunity in that auction. Now, these are in the spring commissioner sales. That's what this auction season is called. And we have a very recent video that covers these commissioner sales and talks through how the interest works, how the auction works, how the bidding works. It's a great video to give you through the mechanics of how to invest in these auctions. So please check out that video if you're going to be looking at Indiana commissioner sales. We'll cover a little bit more in this video, but that's where you want to go for the full overview. We do have some foreclosure auctions I don't want to forget about. 44 scheduled in April. These are 44 foreclosure auctions, and then 47 more of those scheduled in May. We'll just look at the auction calendar for Indiana. Let's go here. So April, you can see we have 3 sales tomorrow, and then a lot this week, April 3rd, 4th, 5th, and then moving into the month. Next week, the big one is Lake County, of course. If you wanted to go from the auction calendar and see what's in the Lake County sale, if you're a list person, to click on list and you can see what's in the auction, or if you're a map person, you can click here and just pop up in the map and see it that way. So again, we do have a video covering a lot of this, but when you look at these city blocks, there's just so much to consider buying. So these search filters will save you loads of time. Remember, the commissioner sales are sort of cumulative with leftovers from previous sales. So we want to really hone in on improvements maybe. We want to set a minimum value of $20,000. We've already taken the list down to 242 properties just by those 2 filters alone. And we're looking at the auction already here in that filter. So let's just click go on that. Now you see there's a lot fewer properties to deal with. And if I wanted to see these in a list, I'm going to go to parcel results and view these in a grid. So now 242 parcels. I can sort by these column headings and the most expensive land value up top. I could sort by amount due if I want to find the cheapest lien or the most expensive lien in the auction, and just work the list that way. So that's how we save you a lot of time on these auctions, is really the filtering, the list, and then just helping you track your research. So just moving on, I'm actually on the calendar going to, I didn't do this before, I should have. Let's filter by tax auctions only, because that cleans the calendar up quite a bit. We still have a lot of auctions this week. If you look at this, there's even a deed sale this week listed. But that took all those foreclosure sales out of the way and lets us focus on that. If you did want to see foreclosure sales only, you can do that, filter it this way. So just depending on what you're focused on, this calendar can be filtered to save you time. All right, moving on to Arizona. This is the OTC season, so we're talking about some of their over-the-counter drops that have happened. I guess you call them just new things being released. Most counties have released their OTCs. Pima was today. They released 3,000. Overall, we've seen 12,000 new OTC liens added in 2024. About a third of those have already sold since the release. So a lot of you are on our site daily and had the jump on these over-the-counter liens. You were able to get to them before anybody and quickly filter to the good ones. I hear success stories all the time about people that instead of having to go through a few thousand properties on an Excel spreadsheet and miss out on the good ones because they're being bought every minute, they're able to filter and get to the good ones really quick. And so I love to hear that, those success stories. One side note here, the Arizona scouting services are no longer available for this season, so the button has been removed from the website. But let's take a look at Arizona's over-the-counters. We have a lot of videos covering this, so we'll just focus on one county today. Let's just look at Pima, clear my filters. There's 3,000 of those, and let's throw them on the map. Okay, so there's Pima County, and it looks like this the Tucson area, and you can see these liens are colored in green because they are the over-the-counter liens. If they were auction, they would be yellow. But it can, let's turn on satellite view, just for better contrast with the green on the map. So you can see there's going to be ditches. Anything over the counter, you're going to have more scrutiny, more filtering to do. You probably don't want to buy a cul-de-sac unless that is your strategy. I don't know. I don't know what that would be, but maybe you have one. You may not want to buy just this ditch right here unless you are trying to buy that sidewalk area. I don't know. So there's a lot of things in here that you may not find that useful. Over the counters can have a lot of junk, but let's see if we can clear some of that out. I'm going to just leave land and improvements. We're not going to filter structures out yet. I want to see what happens if I do a minimum value of $10,000, because that should take out some of the ditches. And you'll notice that got us down to 270 properties. 90% of them were ruled out just with that one filter. So now that I've ruled out 90% of the list, I can really focus on the ones that seem to have value, like this one. So I see this actually as a house on the map. It's maybe in rough shape. It looks like there's roof damage, but this gets my attention when I see a house instead of vacant land here, with a good valuation too. If I wanted to buy this, the purchase options block is always going to be your friend if you're trying to buy. There are instructions right here that tell you everything to do so that you can go buy it. Links and everything. Now let's see. There's also additional links here on the right side that will take you to individual places on the county sites for this property if you want to see the GIS summary, just different links like that if you want to keep researching the property before you buy. But that's a good idea of how you would quickly get to the properties that have value, and you can use whatever number you want. You can bump it up to $20,000. That gets the list down to 100. That's a very manageable number. If you wanted to see that in a grid and look at it off the map, you can click parcel results on the right, view that in a grid, and now you can go sort by the cheapest lien or the most expensive lien. Wow, $700,000 for that one. I think we're gonna have to look at that because the total value is very low. They must have had quite a history on that property. I wouldn't recommend that one. So some of these mountain dues are very high, and then that would help you filter. You're looking through here, and we'll just click a random property. I'm great at finding the properties that don't have a Google Street View, so here's another one. But this triangle of land, it has a decent value, $96,000. The lien is $25,000, and it's a 2.5 acre plot of land. Looks like it could be near commercial areas, so all kinds of interesting things that you can find in the over-the-counter list, just things that didn't sell last month. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about Mississippi. It's over-the-counter season again because the auction season is like a blink and you miss it blip on the radar. The auctions actually happened today. Not an April Fool's joke, it was today. And we only had 2 weeks to look at them. They list the properties 2 weeks in advance, and what's really funny is these lists change daily, which is not uncommon for an auction, except for the fact that the properties seem to trickle in over the 2 weeks, which is very strange. In some states, they take that very seriously, and if properties are added to an auction list after the publication date, they will actually move the auction to give the proper notice. But Mississippi must not have a law for that. So we see properties spilling in even to the day of or the day before the auction on these. All that to say, the auction's wrapped today, but we just saw an announcement that there's a relist of leftover properties for 2 of the counties, Bolivar District 1 and Quitman, and those are updated on our website. So you can do the relist. I think you have to be already registered for the sale to participate in the relist, though. I don't think they let you register the night before. But you can, if you're registered, go ahead and feel free to shop in the relist tomorrow. Reminder that there's over-the-counters in Mississippi, tax forfeited lands, over 7,000 of those tax deeds available. This is where the state just takes old tax liens that didn't sell, and they actually foreclose with the county, work with them together, and then put those into the tax forfeited lands inventory. So they are available year-round to purchase from the state. You can see they sort of trickle in, and oops, went too far. So let's take a look at the auction calendar for Mississippi. Again, most of these have passed, but if you wanted to get Bolivar and Quitman, you can go see the remaining 11 properties in Quitman. And then Bolivar District 1 has 8 left, so not a ton left. But these will be available tomorrow for relist. Yeah, just it's actually 19 total properties. Is hardly worth mentioning. But here they are. If you wanted to shop in the relist. So, Mississippi, really at this point, with those 19 properties being the last ones, you probably want to shop OTC. And this is how you would do that. Let's take the value. Let's clear my filters actually, and let's in the inventory filter, I'm going to look for over-the-counter only. That's going to take those auction properties out, and it just shows us what's left. So here we are in Mississippi with 7,278 over-the-counters to look at. You can see there's concentrations of it across the state. We'll look at Jackson first, and click the first property I see. So vacant land, $20,000 valuation per the county. And if you wanted to buy this, first of all, you want to probably research using these county links on the right. Plenty of resources there for you to work through and check out the property. But this purchase option, apply online right here, gives us very odd and detailed specific instructions on how to buy, because they do not make it easy. But if you learn the steps to buy, just finding the property, adding it to your list, and then buying on the Mississippi website, it's a great opportunity. A lot of people bounce right off of it as soon as they see that there's many steps to buy. But at the end of the day, could be a good opportunity for your strategy if you're trying to shop in Mississippi. Moving on to Virginia. So we have only been watching Virginia for a few months now, but I can show you the spring auction so far. We cut it to late March. And those 4 auctions at the top have been completed. Now we have 5 more on the board: Henry, Wise, Matthews, Bedford, and Washington. So they span from April to May. And we check on these daily to see if there's new auctions added, and we put them on Parcel Fair as soon as they are. Side note, we have photo and video scouting services in Virginia now. We'll show you that in a second. And we do have a Virginia tax deed auction video. It's kind of an introduction to how things work there. So check out the Virginia video if you want to see that. Meanwhile, let's check out the calendar. You can see the upcoming auctions, the 6 that I just mentioned. The Virginia tax deed auctions are very small. The biggest one on this screen right now is 33 properties in Henry County. And they're pretty easy to get through quickly and just find if you want to see, if you want to buy anything. So let's just go to Wise County first. And one thing you can do is just go to all counties actually. Clear those filters, and now we're looking at all those auctions, all 6 auctions in one place. And you could apply your filters this way to say, looking across all the auctions at once, show me just things with improvements, give me a $20,000 minimum, and let's go with that. That takes it down to 14 properties. So you just research 6 auctions to find the 14 that fit your strategy, and now you can just surf the right side here and find one that you want to read more about. So let's take the bottom one. This is a very nice looking cul-de-sac lot. We're talking about Henry County, and if you want to see the full report here, the total value is listed at $159. One of the things about Virginia is they don't always list the amount due at the auction, so it's not available right now. Sometimes they put it in before the auction, but this one we do not know yet. But we know it's half an acre, and this would be, let's click on the auction info here. It's going to be held in person at the Summerlin boardroom here. It's got an address, and on April 12th. So you would need to be in Virginia or have a proxy of some sorts to buy this at auction. If you wanted to know more about the auctions, there's the tax information link here, and of course the auction list you can check out too. That will take you straight to a page just about the auction for you to learn about it. And if you want to learn about Virginia auctions overall, if you're not familiar with them yet, we have an introduction video that will take you through that. I recommend, if you don't have experience there, to do that video first. Let's check out Ohio. We have these sheriff sales available throughout the year that are tax deed foreclosure auctions, and we're currently tracking 49 in April, and then 16 auctions already scheduled for May. We're going to add Ohio land banks. We've had a lot of other things we're focused on right now, so we've not gotten to them yet, but I'm going to put it out there that they are coming soon. And we do have a great video that goes through the sheriff auctions and their introduction to how they work. So that video will help you learn about the bidding and what you're buying. But meantime, let's check out here. Here are those 49 auctions in April. 3 of them were today. And moving down the list, you can just see kind of scattered on the auction calendar here. If you wanted to look at everything at once, let's do that trick again we did in Virginia and just look at all count. Oops, let me clear my filters. So 423 properties available across all of those auctions. They're all very small auctions. And if we want to do our filter trick, let's put the minimum at higher this time. Let's put it at $50,000 and see that takes it down to 274. It's actually really good property value in some of these auctions. If you see, like on the right side here, I know people that really like to shop in Ohio if they're trying to buy rental properties because the value is good. The price is going to be a little bit higher. I'll show you that in a second here. One of the things we covered in the Ohio video is that the amount due can be very high. You notice the total value is $213. The amount due is $160 on this one. So the reason is these sheriff sales in Ohio are actually a combination of foreclosures and tax deed foreclosures. So when you see an amount due that's really high, you can probably guess that it's a normal foreclosure from a lender, not a tax foreclosure. Again, it's an educated guess, but you could do your homework on any given property and get to the bottom of it. But you'll see plenty of these where the amount due is higher than the value of the property, at least listed by the county. So one of the things you want to do is go to the parcel results here, and let's view these 274 in a grid. We're going to start at the lowest amount due. Oh, I missed it. So 2 of them are listed at 0. I think that's going to be that they're going to release the amount due later. But you can see these are the properties you probably want to focus on. Something where the amount due is $4,500. That's the starting bid of the auction, but the property value is $121,000. That's a much better proposition if you're like a tax deed investor that wants to really try to spread money around multiple deals and look for some of those big wins. You may want to go for the lower starting bids. So that's just a quick tip for Ohio. But yeah, you should check out our Ohio video if you want to know a lot more about that. Moving on to New Jersey. So we have the spring tax lien auction season going on right now. We have 7 auctions that they are scheduled for April. So those are coming up. We'll take a peek at those. You can always check out our New Jersey video if you want to know a lot about how these auctions work. But in this video, we will cover a little bit. So on the auction calendar, I'm looking at New Jersey, and I can see the 7 auctions coming up in April. Along with the totals, so I'm gonna take a look and see 251 here. Let's check out Pemberton because it shows 890. That's a big auction. So one thing I like to do is on markers and overlays on the side, I like to turn on my county borders, draw county borders like that. And now I can see, switch over to map view for a little better contrast. You can see these are on the edge of the county here. But digging in there, let's go back to satellite. You can get a great view. These look like they're kind of waterfront on a lake even. That's always interesting. And very residential area here. The values are probably pretty good. You see 139 for the value on that one, 188, 146. So yeah, this is just kind of surfing through the auction. 66 on that one, 149. So you get an idea for the property values in that area by doing that. And so let's take that 890. We're going to do some of our filters. Let's look at just improvements. That didn't take many. These are almost all houses. Let's look at a minimum of $100,000. That still didn't take out very many. So let's look at 200. Okay, that took it down to 128. That's better. Again, there's no reason I chose 200. It's not a strategy. I just I'm doing it as a for instance in case that's part of your strategy. I don't know. But one thing is interesting. This is a $200 lien on a $272,000 house. So this is very common in New Jersey. What is going on here is that these tax lien auctions, they sort of roll up other liens into it. And you can see some very small liens at times pop up on these properties. So let's go view those results in a grid, and I'm going to sort by that amount due. And I can see there are some very small liens on some of these properties. So they may not be tax liens. They may actually be other liens that you're buying if they're that cheap. But if I sort the other way, I'm seeing the biggest liens up top. These are obviously much bigger liens to be purchasing. So you can kind of find your sweet spot and say, maybe I'm looking at a $3,000 to $4,000 budget. I could look at this apartment unit, apartment 30 out of this complex, and that way I can, tie up a little more money into a lien if that's what I want to do. Let's see, maybe I can find another one to look at here. Maybe this one. So we have a commercial looking property here, $2,000 lien on a $264,000. So that's, that may be a better sweet spot for this. The higher the lien, I guess you can presume that there's less chance of redemption. If the lien's $100, I don't think someone's going to let a property go for $100. I'm just saying. So that's how I would approach New Jersey, is sort of feel through what is a good lien to buy. And again, you're going to get to these auctions and have competition, so you probably need to spread your bidding out and try to place some prospects on as many properties as you could consider. Anyways, that's this one auction in New Jersey, and that's how I would approach it. Let's talk about North Carolina. Tax deed foreclosure auctions. These are in person from what we're seeing. We have added a lot of new counties, a lot of new auctions too. We are 128 upcoming in April alone, with 35 more scheduled in May. We have a separate video, I keep saying this on each state it seems like, but we have an introduction about North Carolina because it's not the simplest thing. Every state's going to be a little different. North Carolina has some quirks, and so as a result, you're going to see 3 types of auctions on our site. Some of them are pending and don't have a date yet. Some of them are scheduled and do have a date. And then some of them are upset bids where the auction already happened and you can still have a chance to go in and upset the bid and get the property. So on the auction calendar, you can see everything that's scheduled or the upset bids. So you'll see upset bid in the title if there's an upset bid that expires on that day. So today, Stokes had 4 parcels that had an upset bid expire. And moving on, you can see just different counties over different days. Their auctions are all very small and quite scattered. That's why we have hundreds of these every month. So remember, I mentioned there was pending auctions as well. So you can't, since a pending auction is not scheduled, we can't show you on a calendar. We have to take you over here to the map, and we're going to look at it over here. Let's just check out that way. And the yellow properties are going to be, since they're scheduled as an auction, those are going to show up in yellow like this. And you can see this is an upcoming auction, and here are the instructions for where to go. It's at this courthouse on April 18th. And if you wanted to see something that was actually pending, you'll see those are in the blue, like this one, because yeah, they're not scheduled, so we just treat them with the same color we would treat an over-the-counter deed until it's scheduled. But this one will be up for auction at some point. It will be scheduled in Surrey County. It's a vacant property worth $31,000. You can take a good look at it here. Let's check the panorama view and just take a peek at the condition of the house. Some roof damage, but all in all, not bad for a tax property. The neighborhood does not look bad, and gives me a nice feel for what's going on there. So if I wanted to buy that, I click here, and unfortunately, we have an unknown auction date. I would want to watch this for later, so I would add it to a list right here. And in fact, I don't think I have one for this, so let's create a new list and call it North Carolina Watch List. I'm going to save it to that, and now that it's saved, I can go to, at the top of the screen in my tools, you'll see my lists. And I have a ton of lists, so let's go to the North Carolina Watch List. And so this is where I would keep properties that I want to keep an eye on. And when I see that they get scheduled for an auction, I would then go and prepare for that auction if I can be in person, since it's North Carolina and you have to go in person. But North Carolina looks like there's a lot of opportunity. They seem to go year-round with their auctions, so you just need to be able to go in person. That's sort of the biggest drawback, I would say. Moving on to New Mexico, they started to have a bit of a dry spell and then dumped a bunch of March and April auctions on us, all the way into May, actually. So we just had the 4 March auctions complete, and now we're into April and May. So Leah, Chavez, and Valencia are coming up. Let's take a peek at those on the auction calendar. I'm going to switch my state over to New Mexico right there. And so Leah has 49 properties. These are pretty small auctions altogether. If I wanted to check one out, I'm going to just map those properties here. And there you have it. So let's find one of these properties and take a peek at what's going on. Of course, the Google car did not drive to this one. No street view available. It's $134,000 valuation. Amount due is $15,000, which will be the starting bid at the auction. And if I wanted to do this auction, it's Opportunity Zone also, not to mention. But the upcoming auction button right here is how I would go find out more about when and where the auction is. This one's going to be in person. Some links right here about the tax sale. They have a good website. It's all run through the state, so they're sort of all in one place, which is nice. I would always mention when I talk about New Mexico, the biggest drawback that I hear from investors is that you're buying these tax deeds that you presume have been foreclosed already. And in most states, if the state forecloses on a tax lien and turns it into a tax deed for you, they've also foreclosed on the lender, a bank or something like that, a mortgage company. And that's one of the benefits of buying a tax deed, is that if there was a mortgage, you get out of it as a tax investor, because frankly, the mortgage company also didn't pay the taxes, so they're foreclosed on. New Mexico is the only state we have on the site right now that doesn't do that. The mortgage survives the foreclosure in New Mexico. So that's the biggest complaint we hear about New Mexico. You have to do some careful research to make sure you're not picking up a mortgage that way. So you'll see some good properties here, but you will have some extra legwork to do to make sure you're not buying something with a mortgage on it. So that's good for New Mexico today. Let's move on. Of course, we have a video on New Mexico if you want to go learn more about it. So Tennessee has a year-round auction season, 10% interest penalty, 1-year redemption. And the funny thing is we have actually had people go to the auctions and get different interest quoted to them. I think some auctions are getting 12, some are 10, but the state's supposed to be 10 per their statute. I'm not even sure what to tell people anymore. So I'm going with the 10% since the state statute says that. But if you're lucky, maybe they'll be offering 12%. So the upcoming auctions, we saw a slew of them in March go by on Govies. Now we have Henry County coming up on Govies. Interesting, Shelby County keeps making changes. They always post their auction on their site first, which is where we start. Then they used to move it to Civic Source, closer to the auction, and we'd switch over and track it from there. But now they moved the auction from March 5th to April 23rd and switched websites on us. So now they're at Zeus Auction, which is typically Indiana. on that site. So it'll be interesting to see Shelby use Zeus auction this time around and how that goes. And if that wasn't tricky enough, Knox County still has not announced their date. We've been waiting for a date for months. The preliminary list is available on our site. You can, of course, view it on the map or on the auction calendar here. Let's go to Tennessee. And we just had to pick a date. So we've put it on June 1st now until we have a real date. But I always want to call out that is artificial until we have the real date. So, again, 3 active auctions right now in Tennessee, and that's it. If you want to know more about Tennessee tax investing, we do have some videos to help you out, but we're not going to go deeper today for this video. We need to move on to... Oh, and there's also over-the-counters in Shelby. Little footnote for you there at the last second. Let's talk about Louisiana. We have a preview of Louisiana auctions. What we've come to find out is Louisiana has multiple stages of auctions and land banks. So we started with the Civic Source auctions that are pending auction mostly, but they also have some auctions that are scheduled. So investors, you can start the auction by placing a deposit. If you see it's pending, it's waiting on the first bid to basically kick it into some type of auction schedule. So there's lots to look at in the pending auction, just thousands of properties, or you can shop the ones that are already scheduled. I cannot stress enough, Louisiana is not going to behave like any state you've ever invested in. You need to read and understand the auction rules, and to make things even crazier, you need to understand specific to the auction you're in the parish that you're in as well. It's not the most straightforward state, but I'm excited that we have coverage there now, and we're going to keep adding to it. So as far as over-the-counters, we are tracking some land banks. We started with New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, a few hundred properties in there. And we will have more land banks coming and some more auctions this spring as well. We'll briefly look at the calendar for Louisiana, and I'll show you also how to look at pending auctions that are not scheduled yet. This is all the auctions that are scheduled. You can see there's 1 or 2 properties. Orleans has 17 on one day, but these are properties that are scheduled for auction, and you can go bid on them now. In contrast, let's map all the properties in Orleans County. You can see there's only 17 in this one auction, but if I look at all the properties, this will include the pending, and there's 1,164 pending in Orleans County. So what you would do is take one of these properties, just a piece of land here, and click on it. And if you wanted to start the auction, you would click this big green button here. The auction is awaiting its first bid. And this takes me to their site where I can go place the $850 deposit to start the auction. So again, lots to read here. You need to understand what you're buying. Civic Source is very good at putting a lot of information on their website, so you're in good hands there. And while we're here, let me just show you, clear my filters. And if you wanted to see the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority, that land bank I told you about, click there and go. 273 of those. So a lot of these are in the New Orleans Redevelopment Authority. If I click that purchase option, there's different instructions and a different site that I would buy from right here. This site is not the best one to work with. Civic Source is great for the auctions, but this Redevelopment Authority website is buggy, and even this link, I'm not 100% sure it's going to take us to the correct property because I've seen it. Okay, it actually did. I've seen this site glitch more than anything. So, just make sure, if you compare what you're buying when you're on the purchase screen, then you're in good shape. But I can't fix their website. Unfortunately, it's just something that everyone that buys from them have to deal with. Okay, so let's move on, and we'll talk about Florida. There's always stuff going on in Florida, but right now there are no tax lien auctions. They're on the way. We are getting very close to having the May-June lists. They're just not released yet. We see some dates, but no advertised properties. Good news is you can still buy at the tax deed auctions all year long. There are 49 of those auctions in April that we're tracking, 31 more that we're looking at in May so far. And there's also the foreclosure auctions year-round, hundreds of those every month. And lastly, you can buy over-the-counter tax liens or over-the-counter tax deeds in the state. That's just a a lot of opportunity for one state. We are not going to spend much time on Florida today, but I will show you how to filter the calendar. If you want to see just like the tax deed auctions only, you could do that. And takes it down to the 49 in April. Let's see, we're already out into July on some of these. But pick your county this way and map it or list it, and you're off to the races for the Florida auctions. Colorado is in the off season with over-the-counters and foreclosures being the main ways to buy. That fall auction season ended a long time ago. Over-the-counters are coming up weekly. We're getting new ones, over-the-counter liens available. The foreclosure auctions are also kind of a revolving door. They keep coming and going. 15 more in April, and then 15 more in May so far. And we do have an off-season investing video that would help you this time of year for Colorado. But that's all we're going to cover today for that. We are still waiting on the schedule for Arkansas's 2024 season. This is where we're watching. I'm just going to go to the website. So, hands down, my favorite website to work with in tax investing is the Arkansas Commissioner of State Lands. They run the whole state through one website. This public auction catalog at the top right corner, this shows us the dates. We have the schedule. We don't have the properties yet, but as soon as we do, they will be in a news video. They'll be on our Facebook group. They'll be on the website. They'll be everywhere for you to see. So otherwise, right now in Arkansas, you can still buy over the counter. Let's just take a peek. Let's pick. I'm always bad at picking Arkansas counties. I don't know the state that well. We'll look at one property in Conway County. That's the only one there, and it looks like vacant land, $4,700. And if you wanted to buy it, you would go to the Apply Online button. This takes you through the process to place the bid. Yes, it is a bid, even though it's over the counter, because Arkansas, that's how they work. So you can place the bid here on the property. It's a very high bid on this one. Would not recommend this property unless you live next door and just want to own it. So, yeah, Arkansas will have a lot more to come. But for now, enjoy the over-the-counters until the auctions arrive. And, yeah, we did track new OTC deeds. There we go. I moved Oklahoma and Utah up in the video. They kind of have similar seasons, and they're getting closer. May and June, roughly, and so we think we'll see some lists coming in April. The over-the-counter properties are available in a few counties, with more to come. Nevada, we had a little bit of a teaser. We had an auction back in February that's already passed, and more will be coming. That auction, I believe, was even out of season. It was technically a deed auction that was one county selling some leftovers from a previous auction. So more of Nevada to come. South Carolina, very out of season right now. We did a preview of it last year. We tracked a lot of properties, and hope to get some OTCs in there too. If you just want to learn about South Carolina auctions 6 months before the auctions happen, you can check out our video on that. And that ends our news update for the week. Thank you for watching. We're excited about this auction season, the developments happening now. I should mention, stay tuned. And I know this is the end of the video, nobody's listening, but if you want to have more regular updates and see things sooner than these videos, if you're a Parcel Fair subscriber, you should join our Facebook group, because that's the first place we post if a new auction comes out that's noteworthy or information. That Facebook group has become a great way to be plugged in, and it comes with your Parcel Fair subscription as well. So thanks for watching.